Good afternoon. This is the Devar Torah on Parshas Vayishlach. And this parsha begins with the monumental um, confrontation between Yaakov and Esav that has impact on our history of Jewish people and, in fact, the entire world down to today. And in this parsha, there are a number of main incidents, and the first one is Jacob tries pacifying, divides his camp into two, just in case Esau attacks with his 400 men. He tries pacifying Esau, by giving gifts to him, and he also prays to Hashem. So there's three solutions we have to face when confronting enemies: prayer, um, conciliation if possible, and if not, war. Now, the Parsha then goes on to discuss the actual meeting of Yaakov and Esau. Whether it started out friendly or not is a whole debate. In any event, um, this occurs after Yaakov all night wrestled with an angel, and I will be speaking more about that shortly. And then at the time that he met, Yaakov and his family bowed down. His wives and children bowed down. In other words, 11 of the 12 tribes, not counting Benjamin, who was either not conceived, or even if he was his mother was Rachel was pregnant with him. And after that, the only one that he hid was Dinah. That was to have major repercussions in both ways, because if he had allowed Dinah to be seen by Esau, he might have married her, and Dinah was the last chance to turn Esau back to the good. At that point, Dinah goes out to see the women of the town, city of Shechem, and she's kidnapped by this Shechem, the son of the king, and he assaulted her. His sons, when the next day, Shechem wants to marry Dinah, and after negotiations, the local inhabitants of Shechem agree that city decide to be circumcised, and there'll be a mixing of the two groups. At the third day after they all had a bris milah, Shimon and Levi came in. Now, all they could have done was rescue Dinah and wipe out Shem and Chamor, because they were the main perpetrators, according to one opinion. It's Machloket Rambam and Ramban. They were right in destroying all of them, because they did not maintain a system of justice to the rest of the people. In any event, Yaakov was upset with their behavior, and the parsha then goes on to describe the birth of Benjamin and Rachel's death, and Hashem makes a new covenant with Yaakov, and that's when Reuven moves his father's bed to Leah's tent from Bilhah's tent. And he then names the 12 tribes of Yaakov, and then the entire genealogy, the tribe of Esau, which comes out of Rome, is given, both in a historical perspective as well as a very profound, deeper perspective. There is major importance for why those verses are attributed. And now what I would like to speak on is the confrontation between the angel and Yaakov. Now, the actual incident, Yaakov is wrestling with the angel when he's alone on the other side of the river. And then the angel fights with Yaakov the whole night. He can't defeat him, but what does do is he wounds him in the hip by the sciatic nerve. And now this sciatic nerve, we're not allowed, the Torah does not prohibits from that time and onwards to eat. It's forbidden to eat that. And the animal would be, and the cow would be lying on one of the, on the hind leg, by the hind legs. In any event, he then tells Yaakov, I want to leave, but he says, it's dawn, but why? Because even though he's very evil, and I'll explain who he is in a minute, there was a father, he had one chance to sing the praises of Hashem, and that was his day. In any event, he's then told by the angel, Yaakov's told, you have striven with man and God, and you will no longer be known as Yaakov, you will have a new name, Israel. I'll be explaining that more in subsequent parshas, especially Parashat Vayishlach, as portions Sefer Reshit. In any event, who is this angel? Now, this angel is not an ordinary angel. And Yaakov asks, who is he? Now, angels do not, most angels, and he's unique and probably unique in this, no, not unique, but one of the very few that actually has a name, because when it says a name of an angel, it's talking about its assignment, its purpose, and angels change from one purpose to another. And that's why he says, do not ask my name, meaning telling him, listen, I have different missions, I don't have a permanent name. And there's a number of explanations. One explanation is when he asked who is my name, he actually in the Midrash says he did. The angel did tell Yaakov his name. And what was his name? You do not know my name. Now, what does that mean? Who is this angel? This angel is we usually refer to him as Shlamik Mem, but his real name is Samael Shein Mem Aleph Lamed. Now, this angel, it's a combination of two names. One is Sam, excuse me, which means boys and El, a godly angel. Now, but he further, according to one explanation, besides that, he tells him, my name is, you do not know my name. In other words, what is my mission? Is to trick people. He represents Samael, the Yetzer Hara, the evil influence who's been at work since the time of Adam and Chava, induced them to eat from the fruit, the Yetzer Das of Tov and Ra. And he functions in two ways. In other words, if you really know what he was doing, and he really knew he was trying to trick you, a person into committing sins, nobody would do it. So he has to use various disguises, subterfuge. Now, on a deeper level, it's also referring, so who is Esav's angel? He's Esav's angel, and who is that angel? It's the Yetzer Hara. And that's why Esav has been around for so long in various manifestations since then. Esav met in Rome. In fact, according to many opinions of the early commentators, he is Rome, his fourth kingdom. And for the sword, which I mentioned last week, Porsche, he represents the bottom part of the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, and has a sword and Sefer Daniel. And it's interesting where he hurt Yaakov. He hurt him by the in the thigh, sciatic nerve. by the hit, and that, interestingly enough, is very close to the place of reproduction. It's teaching us a profound lesson. Even though he couldn't defeat Yaakov, he was going to work through his children, and he works in two ways. He works with Sam, which means poison, and that is the side of Esau that's brute force. We see him present throughout history, the Roman Empire being the latest example. And that Roman Empire no longer exists. How it broke down into what are now the nation states of Eastern and Western Europe, and by extension, the United States, and what was the British Empire to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, among other places, and the European countries. Now, often was brute force, Spanish Inquisition, the Crusades, Holocaust. I'm not going to go through all of the entire list. Now, secondly, sometimes he approaches us a different way. He comes out as El, which means an angelic figure here. And what does he do? He tries to entice us. Hey, listen, marry our children, join our universities, we'll all be one big happy family. And in other words, have us assimilate and move away from Torah and mitzvahs. And he's doing that down to the day. Now, despite that, we've managed on the whole, even though there's been people leaving, we managed to sustain the Torah and mitzvahs. However, in one day, he did have an influence. Now, what day is that? This is explained by the Shlah, among others, Shlah Kodesh, that he gave us enough poison that we did the sin of the spies and Raglim, which led to Tisha B'Av and all the tragedies that have followed, and then failure to enter Israel for 40 years. And this angel and this Tisha B'Av has led to all of the activities which have led Esau Edom Rome. Some say B'nai Ishmael are also part of this. Led them dominate over us, as the Fatah Yaakov bowed to, and his children bowed 7 times. And that challenge we're still living with until today. Now, what does it have to do with the Yaakov and wrestling the angel? Because as the Shlah explains, there's 365 negative commandments, prohibitions one's supposed to not do. One of them is not eating from the Gita Nasher. When does that occur? That is the mitzvah of Tisha B'Av. And there's a most tragic day in our calendar, the one where Yisrael spiritually and Esau Edom Rome are look to be supreme, even though they're not actually. And through that, he can't have, to those who keep Torah much as he has no sway in any event. So who is he throughout history? What I'm going to speak about briefly here, because it's a complicated topic, and one that I may present shares on the book of Sefer Daniel. In any event, Daniel had visions of 4 creatures coming out of the sea after the winds were blowing the heavens. And these 4 beasts were different from one another. The first was a lion with eagle's wings. The wings eventually fell off, and it was removed from earth and stood upon 2 feet like a man. And it was given a human heart. And there was another beast, a second one similar to a bear, stood to one side, 3 ribs in its teeth. The first one was Babylon, and its mouth between the teeth, and thus said, rise, devour much flesh. That was the Persian Empire. After that, we saw another one, a leopard with 4 broad wings on its back. Beast had 4 heavens given dominion. That was initially Alexander the Great, and then the spreading of the entire Greek Empire. Now, all interesting. The leopard I'll probably speak around the time of Hanukkah, but I'd like to go into the 4th creature. Now, how is this 4th creature described? Exceedingly terrifying, awesome, and strong. It had immense iron teeth. It was eating and crumbling and trampling with the rest of its feet. The rest of its feet was different from all of the beasts and proceeded and had 10 horns. I was studying the 10 horns, and behold, another horn, a small one, came up among them, and 3 of the previous horns were uprooted before it. Hold eyes like human eyes when this horn, and mouth speaking haughty words. Not as many interpretations. I'm just going to share a couple. Who is this beast? This represents the base of Rome, the 4th Empire, and it had 4 characteristics by the Roman Empire and its offshoots now. Its great brutality, that's why it was the Kila, terrifying, meticulous planning of strategy and great foresight. 8, aim tani, cautious in judgment, cautious. And 3, the kifa, overwhelmingly strong power. So they possess these qualifications to that. Rome possessed them the greater degree than any power before. Therefore, it ate Sarah excessively because it overwhelmed the 3 previous ones. In fact, it's a combination of the 3. Now, why did I mention the Chila? I mean, terrifying and awesome, represent part of its face of Rome. The other part is Islam. Now, it's said to have iron teeth. Who do they represent? According to one opinion, that was the Roman emperors. They crushed many nations. When it says eating and crumbling and trampling rest of feet, those nations which were not absorbed in the empire were brutally breeding submission and exploit for the good of the empire. This is the Malbian. Now, it was very different because no other empire was able to keep up with Rome in either size or strength. Now, 10 horns have different explanations. One is that it represents the 10 Roman emperors, starting with Julius Caesar and ending with Vespasian. And his son Titus, one is destroyed. Second Temple. According to opinion of Rav Sarjagan, there were 10 rulers, and this isn't significant for us, 10 rulers of monarchy. One was the Roman emperor in Constantinople, the king of Minia, the king of Hungary, the king of Germany, Holy Roman Empire, the king of Bulgaria, the king of Canaan, and some say it was certain of the countries like Bohemia, Moravia, and Slovakia. And it also represented the king of France and Spain, and the king of Ishmael, which we are seeing is going through tumultuous times, particularly prefaced with the events of the last few weeks. And any event, it then goes on to say that one of the horns grew another one, and the 3 of the previous horns were uprooted before it. Who was that talking about? One explanation is that there was a horn, a small one, may have been Vespasian, son Titus. and destroyed it. Another explanation, it's talking about the religion that arose from Rome, or it may be referring to the different groups that the Christianity broke up into. In any event, it spoke arrogantly. Now, this seems very, and if you historically trace it, all the empires that formed up, Spanish, the Russian Empire, British Empire, the French, you read all of those, Austrian and Hungarian, all of these derived from in this vision. Again, there's different ways of understanding it. But now this sounds all very discouraging, spread it all over the world, yet one has to keep up one positive thing here, is that the Parsha then goes on to say, Chazei Kavita Adi Karasav Rimav Atika. I watched till the thrones were set up, and the ancient of days sat, Yatim Yimim Levusha Bagala, the Shah, Resha, Amka, was on the whole description, and it's supposed to be symbolizing Hashem in his judgment. It's beyond the scope of our Torah. Again, it will be very good for sure, and say for Daniel. In any event, that shows that who's going to be appear before Hashem, and brought by Eliyahu Hanavi, is going to be Mashiach ben David. May we merit the redemption soon, as we are living in very historic days. Good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.